Hello, my name is Carsten Domann. Welcome to today's keynote, which is entirely dedicated to the question, has everything already been said about XR? For orientation, I have picked up 5 main points that will lead us through the next few minutes. How do we approach the topic? Where does the implementation begin? Which steps are necessary? And finally, a few words about practicality and the future. If you look back a little, you will notice that the great exuberant expectation in terms of virtual realities have not been fully met. What have market research and industry associations not predicted? If it had happened that way, we wouldn't have to shed light on this question today. That's the way it is with the virtual. The word really stands for itself. Do we remember the ad hoc announcements 2019 and 2020? The market researchers at Gartner, for instance, suddenly no longer wanted to follow the hype about VR, AR, and thus practically also XR. Everything said, seemingly. A look in the current statistics is really worthwhile because there are definitely new findings and trends. The following slides are based on some statistics from the German Federal Statistical Office, background information from the German IT association Bitkom, and other sources. First, the world. What does it look like there? All in all, China, Japan, Korea, Europe, and the United States are the driving markets and the demanders for technology. Real market figures are not really available, and as you can see very clearly here, not very binding and certainly not uniform. Everything is there between millions and billions. For several decades, people have been looking for ways to close the gaps between the digital world and physical reality. The concepts as presented by VR and AR in the form of apps, video games and entertainment formats have arrived in everyday life. There is no question that digitization has received enormous advances worldwide in the last 18 months. But needs and temporary solutions are opposed to acceptance and sustainability. That is to say, the need to develop AR via VR to complete XR begins now or is only now becoming concrete, based on the experiences gathered and can also be formulated. Another interesting question is where the technologies are developed further. A good, if not meaningful, universal statistic can be found in patent applications. And lo and behold, the USA is in the lead, which is not surprising given the level of digitalization achieved there. Japan and South Korea follow behind. We can and must make concessions here and there to other countries or even percentage increases. As a striking example, especially with regard to growth rates, it is certainly enough to describe Germany, perhaps even Europe, as a capable middle field factor of development. I will come back to this later. Surprisingly, the South Korean tech company LG leads the field. What comes from there sets the beat and should not be underestimated. In general, one should not neglect the infrastructure. Fast internet, 5G, and fiber optic to the home, all of which play an essential role in the diffusion. That the Asians are up here should be enough warning and encouragement for us. In Europe, we are quite on a good path, which does not mean that we should rest. See statistics. We have to set the trends. The best way to do that is through small and medium-sized enterprises, Europe's backbone of industry. Mixed reality will massively change the way we work together. Computer-generated holographic experiences will make the experience of communication in research and in the working world even more impressive and effective. Immersion and presence will become one. Curiosity and interest on the part of user groups and operators is there. The access to the technologies is also there. The question is now, why can't it be done faster? The next section shows how this can be achieved. In an Erasmus Plus project in the years 2018 to 2020, together with partners who are still contributing this afternoon, I have been investigating how the virtual world can be integrated into existing working environments in colleges, universities, and in companies, preferably SMEs. The results can be read in detail on the VR Insight project page. Here are just a few key statements that are very likely to apply everywhere and describe the current challenges very clearly. The entire technology around virtual areas of application must be given a plug-and-play capability. The niche existence of VR and AR, yes, and I say this especially outside the entertainment and end consumer world, must be established as soon as possible. There are calls for so-called killer apps and killer hardware, etc., which I personally think are exaggerated. The fact is that widespread economic use will advance more quickly by simply plug in, switching on and trying out. I had included a few selected photos at the end of the last section that show exactly the enthusiasm and curiosity among users. But an experienced colleague still has to be there. Unfortunately, this is the fifth wheel on the car. The technical circumstances, both positive and negative, are not the only boundary condition that stands in the way of an introduction and mass wave of success. In reality, two worlds collide here: research and development in IT and, on the other hand, the economy. The typical balancing act between demand, supply, use and application, mass market and highly specialized niche applications. Add to this extremely different expectations in terms of time, costs, functionality, efficiency, to name just a few examples. The distance between the worlds is thus characterized by the availability of knowledge, the access to knowledge transfer, and the complex and numerous application scenarios in practice, so that the learn effect also comes to bear in the form of meaningful applications. One could also say that the mental distance to virtual space, to multidimensionality, perhaps even to digitization itself, are significant obstacles. This is the gap between IT-oriented research and cross-disciplinary application. The challenge is to overcome this gap, and it won't be that difficult. How do you deal with this? For example, you can integrate modern project management with approaches from design thinking, try out agile forms of project organization, and so on. It's all there. The important thing is to remove the mental blocks. They are deep, very deep. The proof of the pudding is in the eating should be allowed for once. Find elements and levers to rethink the existing processes and structures from scratch. In my opinion, a wrong approach is to think that XR comes as a supplement to computers and common IT. No, XR revolutionized thinking, understanding, doing and acting. We have now already reached points 3 and 4 of the agenda that were there: speed and iterative approach as well as implementation. All of these are things that directly affect a basic attitude towards digitization. Who is best prepared for this? I have put together a short summary for you. The data are amazing. Within Europe, the leading countries are those that led the PISA studies at an early stage. Several years in advance are now paying off. Finland leads the field. Interesting. Our Finnish friends again. So that you as an entrepreneur or as a university professor do not lose touch, here are the most important points in the brief overview. Your own further education and the forms of future training for studies and work are addressed with this. You have to do that yourself. As support in the form of programs, platforms to find partners or experts, or training and coaching programs, we will still learn during the course of the event. Remember, only the active will survive in the global, international and regional competition. And the next generation of technology enthusiasts is ready, with or without robots and artificial intelligence. It is a race against time. It is time to look at completely new ways of learning and studying. This cannot happen in full in the short time available for the keynote. Therefore, at least a few lines of thought that I hope will give you access to the topic and also to the dramatic situation as a whole. It is not all a question of lapsing into actionism in any form. But both sides, universities and business, must find a common language that focuses on the solution, added values in the sense of advantages, and the common application scenarios of an XR, VR, and AR-oriented working world. This simply means curricula and training plans. I mentioned at the beginning that the distance between the worlds is a little too great. That will continue to be the case. A rapprochement takes place via the practice-oriented problems that should be formulated by the business side, and with a certain degree of freedom for the universities. The XR world is not yet standardized. Flexibility, trial and error, of course under the aspect of economic efficiency, are goal-oriented. As I said, think anew, create anew, act anew, and execute anew. Let's summarize this briefly. The real world presents us all with real challenges. Little positive experience in companies, but also in the non-technical university sector, very vague ideas about possible uses and fields of application, and not to forget the lack of interfaces and compatibility. The future requires new ways of thinking, different methods and completely new IT-based tools. Interfaces are one thing, content is the second important factor. The term content producer has so far been associated with social media and the infinite number of channels there. Yet, each and every one of us is producing content. Only in the future it will no longer be in the form of YouTube videos, PowerPoint slides or PDF documents. Libraries, by the way, are already widely available for the virtual world. Access is uncomplicated, feasible from anywhere in the world. This leads me to the right-hand column of the graphic. Learning by doing is the keyword. Broadening horizons will be time-consuming, so take it step by step, not too much at once. It will certainly pay off in the end. What do you end up doing with all the many steps of gathering knowledge, studying, and trial and error testing? Well, there are essentially 4 variations of a fairly complex deployment scenario with XR. One is the learning effect itself. You know what's going on and you can have a say. The decision to deploy XR is made or postponed. The light blue quadrant with the technical increase already includes process integration and isolated optimizations. Option 3 in orange shows a complete realignment based on XR across as many, perhaps all, areas or processes in the enterprise as possible. The green piece of the puzzle shows the option most likely to be considered with XR, completely new business cases or business areas. By the way, new competitors from other industry will most likely advance via the variants in green and orange. You probably already realize it's serious with XR. And typically, the competitors can also come from the research area. Spin-offs and other outsourcings are to be mentioned here. Competitor analysis also means looking into this area. Digitization through XR will bring new methods, new tools, and, as a logical consequence, new solutions. The world of mixed reality will bring a new push in terms of learning and possibly also reach new heights. Of course, we are talking about a snapshot, and spillover effects are at least emerging. The next step, artificial intelligence for example, or quantum computers, and so on, will follow. The series of developments continues. In addition to methods and tools, organizational forms are also important. network structures, non-hierarchical alliances, temporary virtual factories. This already existed as a research topic 20 years ago, but is only now becoming really relevant to everyday life. In this respect, constant control, critical analysis, and, if necessary, corrections are needed. Let me draw a third conclusion at this point. XR will have a rapid and truly pervasive spread in culture, leisure, and entertainment. For manufacturing, we can expect new processes, extraordinary ideas, and technological advance on many levels. So what does the actual world of mixed reality look like? The question is justified. To be honest, it cannot be answered so simply. There are concepts, see also the background video running here, which generally show computer-based animations. The example used here of Microsoft's second generation HoloLens or Microsoft Mesh is relatively new, released in March to be precise. The world shown in the video presupposes many of the things I briefly touched on the beginning. A strong IT infrastructure, general networking, and independence of location. Of course, much of this does not come to us, or comes to us in a heavily modified or simplified form. They are mock-ups, here and there also prototypes. But basically, you can already read the tendencies very well and learn to think first ideas in this direction. To conclude, I have made a few thoughts of my own about what this could look like. Our new mixed reality world. You can achieve something with simple means, and scenarios like this one will then feel quite normal. Smartphone was yesterday, the future is XR headsets and wearables. Management and skills, technology mastery and engineering, user-friendliness and individuality round off the rule perfectly. So the future doesn't look so bad. We need to catch up in Europe and find our own way. The natural competition between member countries will give us all a place in the international top rankings, sometimes as number one, sometimes as second or third. Mixed realities will build on the standalone VR and the familiar AR. The nature of communication will change, massive, rapid, irrevocable. We will overcome separation and seclusion due to the pandemics or other circumstances. We will redefine and re-experience space, time and distance from the object, the subject of interest and the novel things to be discovered. Only one thing remains, namely to find a place to work from with XR where others go to holiday. Come along, the future starts right here. This is what the future of mixed realities looks like. It is and remains interesting, with exciting challenges in and for many areas. Thanks for listening.